right. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us for another Rebuild Honestly. For those who don't know, Rebuild Honestly is a monthly panel discussion that we have with Black Excellence KC, with our partnership with Keystone Innovation District, we have decided to make these panel discussions a part of sessions, all in the spirit of intersecting many different cultures and perspectives and ideas, just to ensure that innovation is visible to all and accessible to all. So Rebuild Honestly is just transparent conversations, real conversations about subjects that impact the Black community, to give our true and honest perspective from leaders of the Black community. And I'm really excited to, most of the time we talk about economic development or we talk about workforce. And when you think about workforce or developing that pipeline, it really starts with the kids, right? And it starts with ensuring that the kids have representation, and that we are providing them with the opportunities that we didn't have. And so what I wanted to do is really collect some leaders who really speak to that from many different perspectives, but all with the same intent of in our youth and ensuring that they have access to wealth, right? And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down the line, and we're actually gonna start with ladies first. And I don't like doing introductions, even though I've heard I'm pretty good at them, but I like people to introduce themselves, the organization you represent, and how, and I guess like what is your impact towards the youth, and then we'll roll the questions from there, okay? All right.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Tiara Posey. I am the Director of Education and Family Engagement at the Urban League of Greater Kansas City, right down the street. The main thing that we are focusing on right now is our Parent Education and Empowerment Center. So we are working with parents and scholars who are receiving special education to make sure that they are adequately knowledgeable about IEP plans, 504 plans, and making sure that they know enough information to advocate for themselves. And sometimes that's just me sitting in a room, because if you've ever been in an IEP meeting, it is very intimidating for parents. So sometimes it's just being that support, and sometimes it's helping them be that voice. I also focus specifically on college and career readiness. My background is in higher ed administration, and so I like to be able to expose our scholars, our Black and Brown scholars, to different opportunities, different careers, and things that they may not think of. I always tell them, whatever you want to do, somebody else pays to do it, and they'll pay you to do it. So we always try to find ways, whether that is via college or some sort of career.
Did you hear that? Sheesh. So I'm Kyle Hollins. I'm the Executive Director and founder of the Lyrik Institution. We focus on behavior modification, creative arts. We had a mentorship program, but what we realized is young adults have to be actively engaged in the things that they learn, right? They need an environment to practice the things that they learn. So we switched from our mentorship component to our internship component into the real world aspect of learning. So what we try to do is we try to attach this cognitive behavior design to whatever we can, basically, right? So we go into high schools. Well, our demographic is 8th grade through 25. So what we believe is young adults need to be transitioned into the high school arena. And then what we've learned is in our demographic, in this poverty-stricken demographic, right, we still need those supports from 18 to 25, because in that 18 to 25 areas where we see, again, high felony rates, drug addiction starts spiking at that point. We see young ladies getting pregnant and things like that. So too often we think that these young adults are really aware of EFG, but they're struggling with ABC. So what Lyrics wants to do is make sure that we're holding their hands through ABC, and so they can stand on their feet, their own 2 feet, to make the decisions with EFG. So that's kind of the heartbeat of what we do at Lyrics.
My name is William Wells. I'm the Executive Director and founder of aSTEAM Village. We're a STEAM education program. We do education, we do workforce development, we do industry certifications in IT, and I'll be real short. For us, it's all about getting these young people in the economy, getting their parents in the economy now. So that's it.
Well, one, I appreciate you all for joining us, and the one thing that I want to point out, I feel like is a common thing is that although your program is directed towards youth, right? But all of you have a component where it brings in the household. So how important is it to have that holistic view of not only impacting the youth, but also ensuring that their parents are involved in this development as well? And that's open to anybody.
No, so I talk. That's what I do. I do this for a living. So wraparound supports are pivotal. So if we're talking about how the brain works off of reinforcers. So to hear it once is okay. To hear it twice is a little better, but hear it 3 times over 21 days, now we're solidifying the actual neural pathway, right? So what we want to do is we want to affect the parents, because that's the demonstration piece. I think sometimes what happens is and I said this in the last one, and I kind of want to reiterate the pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of theory, right? So what I think we fail to realize is in different demographics in their homes, they're teaching certain skills unconsciously that are preparing those young adults for a workforce. They're unconsciously putting them around, other entrepreneurs. They're unconsciously putting them around CPAs. They're unconsciously, and that just a conversation in the way the brain sponges and pulls information, they're getting information that our young adults aren't getting. So we got parents that are working to put food on the table. Well, if they're working 2 or 3 jobs, where are they getting that sponge information from? So we have to be able to support the parents so they can have the opportunity or the availability to be there for the young adults, right? So one of our wraparound services with our interventions program is our parent liaison, right? So we will work with the young adult. We'll find out what the issue is. If they're not making it to school on time, then what's the real issue? Do you not want to be here? Nah, well, I got to take my sister to school in the morning. Well, what's the issue? Well, mom works in the morning. So how do we get daycare? How do we get a bus to that? Or what do we do? Like, we have to support the parent, you know what I mean? So the young adult can be the young adult, because too many young adults right now are working or being parents, though, you know what I mean? They're the ones that are they're putting food on the table for the kids and stuff like that. So we want, and what that ends up doing is it puts a sense of control on the young adult. And when they come to school, they've been doing adulting things that they think they know, but they don't know. You know what I mean? And now the teacher is having conflict with this young adult that really feels like they're an adult because they've been having to do all these things because they've had to be the parent. So you gotta support the parents. You gotta get the information to them just as immediately, you know what I mean, as getting into the young adults. So that's how we do it from our perspective.
Just to piggyback off that, so just a quick backstory of my history. So I just knew I was going to be an elementary ed teacher. That's what I was going to do. I was going to love on the kiddos, and we were going to learn and do all this. I did my student teaching and quickly changed my mind. But what I learned from that experience is that you work with parents when you work with students. And so I changed my major to child and family studies to learn how to study families, to learn what family dynamics look like, what people need when we look at the hierarchy of needs. If we're working with a parent and they are worried about their lights being on, about getting groceries on the table, yes, they do care about their scholar's education, but that is not their immediate need, and that is not immediately what they're thinking. So something that we do at the Urban League, I do help connect our parents and our scholars to different resources throughout the community. And then we also have a workforce development and career marketplace where if I have a parent who is searching for a job or who needs a job, we have someone there who will help them with their resume, who will help them with their interviewing skills, will connect them to one of our corporate partners. Or if I went to the eye doctor and they were like, we're hiring, so I just took it back to work. And just connecting folks to those different resources. But it's very important because our scholars have lives outside of school, and teachers need to realize that, like, you have them during the day, but when they leave you, they may be being a parent, or they may be being the big sister and doing all of these things. So if we don't recognize that as adults, that we have little adults and little people, and don't handle them in that manner, then we're doing them a disservice.
Well, appreciate those answers. Well, I'm gonna ask you this direct question then. As as we think about STEAM, right? And to me, you have been a long champion of this space, right? And so, it's kind of trending everywhere now, and you see everyone really trying to get into this space. What is your why? Why is it that it really attracted you to really start what you're doing, and and how do you see this really impacting economics within the Black community?
I'm on. All right. So my why is back to the economy, right? The internet levels the playing field. Doesn't matter what race you are, who you know, what relationship you have. If you have a product, a service, you can market it to anywhere. And for me, the why would be these young people have a lot of talent in a knowledge and information-based economy. The good Lord has blessed us all with a brain. It's about what we consume, and it's about them seeing that they can be a producer in this economy and get them to start saying, what is the content that you're consuming education-wise, because you may not be getting it in school. 9 times out of 10, you probably are not being taught what you need to do to be able to participate in a knowledge and information-based economy. So that's my why. I pulled our kids out of, first I was telling Tierra, and put them with the National Society of Black Engineers, right? We have a convention coming here in March of 2023. There are going to be 17,000 professionals, collegians, and K through 12 students from across the country and from around the world descending on Kansas City. I happened to be the chair in 2017 when it was here. I know firsthand what the young people see when they see Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Google, Microsoft recruiting these undergrad and grad students. Those kids are like, whoa, that can be me. It's not being shown on television. The parents see this same thing happening, and they're like, there's a path for my child. So when you get to have a network and you get to see a different way, and then you can tell a young person, there are only 2 types of people on this planet. There are people that produce and there are people that consume. And you can be a producer. You have in you everything that everybody else has in you. Before, you had to be able to find your way on a golf course with somebody that had resources, or find your way into a back room where a deal's being struck. That isn't the case now. So what we're doing is telling them, you can create your own table and you can create your own network. And so that's my why. It's that simple. STEAM, it's all connected to a digital knowledge and information-based economy. And unfortunately, I say this about my son. My son went to Academy Lafayette. Lucky, right? He was, we lived a mile away from the school. Bus came and picked him up from his doorstep and took him a mile to school. And I look at these other kids, because I was teaching robotics at Banneker. They'd be on the bus for an hour and a half. These are systemic inequities that are not going to be addressed by by the policymakers, right? But if I can get the parents, I can get the kids to see, look at the system, look at what you're up against. It's a problem. Engineers, everybody, all of us are engineers, because all engineers do are solve problems to make people's lives better. So if I can get them to look at problems and say every problem is a solution, and that's my why. It's not rocket science.
Love it. And I think one thing that you pointed out was the system, right? There's a system that we're all a part of, and when we really think about truly impacting the Black community and really taking a groundwater approach. And if you don't know what that means, just look it up. I don't have a whole entire dissertation to kind of go into that. But it's really about how do we impact, or how do we create impact in the system that we're in. And we can't do that at one engagement or one point or one subject matter. It has to be a collaborative effort, right? And so when you're talking about education, when you're talking about a holistic approach, approaching teach the parents, and even supporting the teachers that these kids go to on a day-to-day basis. Tell me about like how important collaboration has been for you, Kyle. I think that's one thing that we do really well amongst each other, but not only within the Black community, what does collaboration look like, but what does collaboration look like outside of the community for you and your program?
You know what, I am an avid, how do I want to say this in the most politically correct way to say it, but
this is a safe space, so you can say how you feel.
I don't feel safe.
Safe space on the internet.
I'm not an advocate of the social work philosophy, right? Like why is one person doing 50 jobs when they're good at 2, right? So where I'm at is, I think good collaboration is knowing your lane, right? In this not-for-profit world, there's 3 tiers in my eyes. You got your backpack giveaways, you got your middle tier that are trying to create programs that run systematically, and then you got your conglomerates, right? So the backpack giveaway, people don't care. Like, let's just throw a couple backpacks, let's give away this food, let's do this thing, you know what I'm saying? These are your more passionate people, right? And then you got that middle space that's like, I'm really passionate, but I want to serve more than 12 people. I want to serve more than 100 people, right? And then your conglomerates, they understand the heartbeat of collaboration. They know I can't do all of this work on my own because the work is too much. And in this not-for-profit world, we're super underfunded for the amazing work that we're doing. So they know we got to plug and play. Well, the people that are doing the most phenomenal work in the community are in that middle area, that are fighting for that conglomerate spot, right? Because they know once I get enough money, I can put this system into process, and it could just self-sustain itself. So they end up fighting. Well, they end up fighting themselves because the conglomerates don't care. You know what I mean? They're like, well, whenever you get done fighting, we're just gonna take your stuff. You know what I mean? And we're gonna go put that stuff out there, right? So I think for me and my space and the people that I try to work with and stuff like that, like I wanna create a safe environment to say, yo, like I'm not gonna cross over into your lane, right? Like I'm really, really good at this one thing, and I just really want to be great at that. Put me in your line item as being great at this one thing, and I'm gonna put you into this line item as being mine. To segue off to another point, because we sit in that middle place area where there's more passion than there is paperwork in certain organizations, what Lyrik has done is we've made sure that our paperwork is pristine, right? We made sure that we are good standings, and we go through these audits, and we spend $7,500 on data sets to make sure that we got the data from the programs, because what we do is we bring in the community that just really just wants to do the work. They don't want to sit here and have board governments meetings and all that type of stuff. They just like, yo, I want to serve these kids. I got something that works. I've been testing it on my kids, they friends, they cousins and aunties and them, and it works. We just want to implement it, right? So we have to be that conduit. So to whom much is given, much is required, right? I've been afforded this opportunity to be in some of these rooms, you know what I'm saying, because of my story, because I've weaponized my trauma, because I've been through some things that afforded me some places to go. I have a moral obligation to my community to say, yo, you have an opportunity too. You don't have to focus on this paperwork and stuff like that. I'm gonna make you a line item in my grant, you know what I'm saying, to bring you along. So I just think, you know what I mean, we have these obligations to collaborate. And if you're not collaborating, you're not community based. We're not here to serve 20 kids. We're not here to serve 1,000 kids in a metropolitan that serves 2 million people. No, that's not what we called to do. So it's my soapbox.
Anybody else? Anybody got anything to add to that?
I do. Right now, there's a $1.4 trillion infrastructure bill that's coming down. And the Biden administration has attached Justice 40 initiative that says that 40% of those funds have to go into underserved communities that are tribal lands, inner city, and rural. And I don't know if you know this, but a year ago in October, the city gave us $500,000 to build out a broadband internet network in the 3rd district, and providing free internet to residences and businesses. And we're doing this with middle school and high school students. They're pulling the cable, they're managing the network. Our summer camp, we had 21 students. They were college and high school students that ran the summer camp. And we put $102,000 cash in those 21 kids' pockets over 8 weeks. That puts them in the economy. Young lady that taught went back to Washington State. She's now the vice president of her NSBE chapter. So I say this when you ask about collaboration. UMKC, Mark, all of these people have these planning, and it's like, we know we got to include the community, so let's go grab William and have him sit and plan what we're already doing. Not once did anybody say, what are you doing? How are you doing it? How can we work with you? Because you already have kids. You already have a working network. You already have subscribers. Because everybody's trying to be in position to be the prime. And we're not going that way. There's this picture that I keep that's called the road less traveled, where there's one person going to the right, everybody else is going to the left. And I've always wanted to be that one going to the right, because where everybody's been going to the left, that hasn't worked ever. That's why we see our crime rates up, right? We see our healthcare index down. And so we don't believe that the answer to solving the problem is outside the community. We think that we have everything we need inside the community. We just need to be able to authentically collaborate, authentically work together, and not be an assimilation, or not be like, we need to have your free and reduced lunch numbers, or we need to have your black company in this grant so that we can go get this money, because the money never gets to the intended resources. So I always tell, and I teach this to the young people, don't listen to what people say. Listen to what they don't say. When you listen to what they don't say, you're looking at their actions and you're not listening to their words, because the people will tell you anything they want to tell you until they get you in that grant. And they may use your company name and get $100,000 and then give you $1 to go and spread. And until you get the kids, till you get the parents, till you get the community. And trust me, there are some people, it's not a black-white issue. There are some people in power that look like me that would do the exact same thing. So that's my 2 cents. I hope y'all don't, Kevin doesn't not invite me back, but he knows I'm not gonna, I call balls and strikes without regard to who's batting or pitching.
And I'm gonna second that, and I 100% agree. I think two things need to be done. One, there needs to be an education on what collaboration looks like. I think there's a idea that's out there of what collaboration looks like, and it ain't collaboration. It's really egocentric. You know what I mean? And we call it collaboration. And because I see it even in, I'm not even talking about the kids area. I'm talking about this right down the street on 18th and Vine, when we try to throw a block party, you know what I'm saying, with the collective businesses that are down there. Like, and this is no shade to them. This is across black KC. That far as what I know is, like, we don't collaborate. We don't collaborate. Like, it's too many chiefs and not enough Indians, right? So what I'm learning in this space is, especially with like my Lean Six Sigma training and stuff like that, is before it's ever the person, it's the process. Right. So in my mind, there has to be a process that is implemented, that is put into place to teach the idea of collaboration. Right. And that's a social and emotional skill. That has nothing to do with like 1 + 1 = 2. That's how do I emotionally react to another person that is doing phenomenal things in an area that's not mine? Why do I got to be king in every area? Right. So that has to be taught, because I'm seeing that even in the middle school to high school area. They don't even know how to hang out with each other. Right. So that's part one, social networking, being able to teach that. Part two is good business understanding won't get you $1 in $1 million contract, right? Am I, because listen, George Floyd kicked the whole door open for black people in this grant world, right? And everybody wants to be attached to, like, everybody wants to serve the black community, and now people are aware that the black community has the ability to serve itself. Right? So people are attaching themselves to that. But if you get sucked up and don't exercise your rights or don't stand on what you believe in, and your sense, like, that's going to happen whether you black, white, green, purple, or orange, whatever, right? So I think on those two parts, I think those are very valid points, but I think those two valid points can be combated with good teaching, right? Like, let's teach the business model. Let's teach, and I think this goes back to, again, social emotional intelligence, and this is where my heartbeat is, because this is what I do for a living. But if I'm confident enough to know that I have a PhD in culture because I've been doing culture in the black community for 30 years, can't nobody tell me nothing about culture. You know what I mean? I know my worth when I walk into a board meeting with Kaufman or the Hall Foundation, because nobody in the room can tell me what it's like to grow up on 57th in Michigan, shot one time, stabbed twice in the back, hit by a car, almost facing 35 years. Can't nobody tell that story but me in this room. I am a PhD in this. You know what I mean? I deserve to get paid this amount of money because nobody else in this room can even get close to articulating the struggle that I've been through. You know what I mean? So because I know my worth, I'm telling you this is my price. And when I'm listening to my counterparts walk into some rooms, man, sometimes they just like, I don't know. Like, that's why I don't want to miss my opportunity.
I ain't gonna lie, that was me. Just because and let me say, like, just in our relationship, in our collaborative space, I'm transparent about that, right? Because I don't know my worth. Like, I don't know how to create those measurements, and I'm learning that's something that I'm learning. And I think that when it comes to collaboration, that authenticity and that transparency, for me to be able to say that, is what's going to help us be able to collaborate even more, right? I'm not going to sit back and act like I know everything and just throw out a bunch of numbers. Hopefully that those things are going to land, because most of the time everybody knows in the negotiation space, you know, a shaky number is not a number at all, right? And so I think that the best way for our community, and this is me now going to a point, not a question, I'm not facilitating well, I'm sorry, but the best way for our community to really understand collaboration is to truly understand what transparency is, truly understand what our strengths and what our weaknesses are, and be strong enough to say, this is my weakness and I'm collaborating with you because I recognize this as your strength, and how can we uplift each other to be able to come to what we need for our community. And so, Tierra, I'm gonna go over to you. Because you know, the Urban League really sets to me a standard of what it is to speak out against inequality, what it is to speak out against things that are wrong on how our community is done or not seen, right? So in this collaborative conversation, how can entities like the Urban League, like the Black Chamber or the Heartland Black Chamber, really use their power to leverage true collaboration amongst us who are really trying to make things happen?
I think it just starts with the conversation. I know in my role, I'm a very collaborative person. I am very aware that I know my wheelhouse and I stay in it. And if I don't, I go find somebody who knows how to do it. And I think, just to your point, I don't think it's learning. I think it's the retraining of our minds, because we've learned, right? We have this behavior that we already know, but it's the retraining and then the implementation of those things that we're training our mind to do, the 21 days like you were talking about earlier. So I think, as far as organizations like the Urban League, like Heartland, Black Chamber, I think those conversations just need to be had. Like, we've been in silos for so long. Like, you're over here doing this work and we're all going after the same scholars, but in the end, us keeping ourselves separated isn't helping our end goal, and that is to improve the lives of the kiddos that we're serving. And so I just believe that those conversations need to be had, that transparency needs to be there, the egos need to be dropped in all places, and folks, we need to learn how to accept help. I think that's sums up everything that all of us were trying to say, is that we need to learn how to accept it. We can say we need it, but when somebody actually comes to give it to us, are we ready to be helped? Are we ready to take that help? So
But I feel you got a point. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, it's an internal conversation. That's an internal conversation, right? It's family. At the end of the day, you have to be able to be selfless, right? Empathetic. And you have to realize, I mean, none of us know everything. We're all lifelong learners. My value cannot be measured in dollars and cents. I played dominoes, so you know that all money ain't good money, right? All money's not good money. So I'll give you a real world story. 2 weeks ago, they came to me and said, I know you're connected with NSBE and we know you're young people do tech and we need cybersecurity because we have these electric buses and nobody can work on the buses and we want to do workforce and we want to do youth development. And so they take me over to this big electrical company to set up these meetings every Thursday. Second meeting there, the guy trying to say how empathetic he is, he drops the N-word in this meeting. Yes. Yeah. And I looked to the old guys that brought me in and I looked back at him and I said, well, okay, I'm not going to ruin it for them because they invited us to this party. But I called both of them. I said, I'm not coming back. I called the guy and I told him, if you're comfortable, even if you were trying to prove a point of how you feel I would feel, if you're comfortable enough to say that in front of me, I already know what you're saying when I'm not here. And so I walked away from that. I walked away because I knew that he had an idea but no infrastructure to turn his idea into a reality to generate some revenue. That's why he brought me to the table. I walked away because I knew I had a better idea in the first place and I had the infrastructure to make it happen. We have to realize that we are in control of our own destiny and that our value is not going to be measured in dollars and cents. The dollars and cents come, but our value is in our creativity. That's the STEAM. Our value is in technology. If you ask most of the kids, 99%, even adults, what is technology? They're going to say the internet, the smartphone, the tablet, computer. Y'all agree with that? Huh? No, the technology is them because all of those other things are just tools. The tools don't move. And when they move by what you say. So until we realize that we are the technology, then we're going to keep getting the same results. So I think the collaboration, my brother, is very simple. Let's be selfless. Let's love each other. It bothers me when I see somebody and I smile and they mean mug me. Like, why? Let's love each other. Love everybody. It's not really rocket science. It's not rocket science. Just be selfless, be empathetic, and know your value. And your value is not going to, the dollar goes up and down depending on whatever happens in the market, right? So I'll leave it at that. I think this is a great time for great things to happen, but it goes with mindset.
I agree. And I want to throw this disclaimer out here that this panel is really built to be thought-provoking, right? To ensure that those who are listening, those who will be listening at a later point, how can you carry this conversation on to your different sectors and then be able to come up to a point to where we all can really progress, right? We all can really be authentic and transparent with each other. So don't want anybody to think that your answer is either right or wrong or indifferent, but it's just about opinions so that you can be able to formulate your own action and opinion. One thing that I'm sorry, I lost my thought because Will just kind of struck me. I think that as we are talking about, finding that power within ourselves, right? What do you say to that person who, feel like that they've tried? I've tried, but I've been met with the the crab in the barrel syndrome. You know, I've been met with, and I know this is about for the kids, right? We're talking about what we as adults in this work, because this is where it starts at, in my honest opinion. It starts with our conversations, because these are the things, and how we reflect ourselves trickle down to our students. It trickles down to the programs that we're impacting. And so what do you say to that founder, to that business owner who has tried, and they might have a proven concept, but they don't see the immediate community as their way to be able to be successful?
Hi. The question was a little twisted. So you said, what do you say to that person that may not say the community is the one that's going to help me get there, right?
Yep.
Patience. You got to realize we started what we do in 2011. And I've seen a lot of people on panels. I've seen a lot of people on the cover of Startland News. I've seen a lot of people being celebrated, and who they were being put up, they're gone. They're out of business, right? And we were on an island, and we just kept doing our thing, kept our head to the ground. We knew where we were going, and we had our roadmap and our blueprint to get there, and we just kept doing it. It wasn't until like 3 years ago, maybe, that now everybody's starting to see. Last week we had a sold out gala over in the Monarch Room, and you know, I had small Black businesses sponsoring by tables, civic councils by tables, all these companies that when we first tried to take these kids to their robotics competition or to their championships, they said, no, sorry. That's okay. You Toy Story them, and you keep doing what you're doing, because if you do things in an authentic way, you keep doing things right, your dividends will come. And so if somebody feels that they want to give up on the community, that's a non-starter. That's a non-starter. You can't give up, because I think that's our problem. We're in a microwave economy, or a microwave mentality. Everybody is looking straight ahead instead of realizing there's a peripheral. There's so many opportunities. And, you know, I tell our kids, engineering design process, when they say, oh, they have a great robotics program. Well, programming the robot, building the robot, that's technical. We focus on the non-technical. The non-technical is mental. And you can't do anything technical successful that's going to make you any kind of money unless you're able to master the non-technical. And mastering the non-technical means that we learn how to collaborate. We learn how to form Venn diagrams between our organizations, and our Venn diagrams meet around common goods.
I think we got to, let me champion that. I definitely 100% agree. I think we need to change our perspective on what failing is. First of all, you use the crab in a bucket complex, right? But if we change our perspective, we're basing that complex off of irregular. It shouldn't be like that. I'm gonna catch up. All right, so keep it real. Crabs don't live in a bucket, right? So we're looking at the philosophy from the wrong standpoint anyway. We're acting as if the crabs belong in the bucket, and if they do belong in the bucket, then of course we're going to do survival of the fittest. Whoever gets to the top, we got to climb our way back up, right? But if we say there's a bunch of crabs that live in the ocean, right? Now that perspective is now completely different. Now me climbing on the back of a crab is no longer the failure of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like now it's collaboration. You know what I mean? So I think we need to change our perspective on what failing looks like, and understanding that the people that don't collaborate with you are people that you can tax at a higher rate later. Put that out there. Secondly, you have to weed out negative people in your life. You know what I'm saying? And what I'm learning in this journey is there were so many people that I thought should have collaborated with me in the beginning. They should have been there because this is your wheelhouse. This is where you at. You know what I mean? But everybody's not meant to take the journey with you. And the way that and we have this false sense of this believing in this illusion of control, as if like we determine the milk that we took off the shelf and we milked the cow to put it on the shelf. Like we're not in that level of control. So what has to happen is there are people that are going to be connected to your destiny. And sometimes we just got to be okay with having to trudge through the mud to find out who's going to stick and stay. What is the philosopher? I forgot the wise man that said, some people are leaves and some people are branches, but the people that we want in our lives are the roots, right? People that's going to stick and stay through any weather and stuff like that. Some people is just branches. Some people is just leaves. They're going to change when the season comes, but allow time and persistence to weed those people out. And if you're basing your success on people liking you, you're not an entrepreneur. It's a hobby for you. You know what I mean? That's my philosophy, and I don't want to, stop anybody or tell anybody don't go after their dream or something like that. But there's a big difference between a business owner and a hobbyist. It's a large difference, and there's a lot of people that believe they're business owners when they just really got really great hobbies. You know what I mean? And what's going to test and prove the difference between the business owner and the hobbyist is what you're willing to persevere through. Because nobody in this room just woke up in their career field, whether they're an entrepreneur or not an entrepreneur, without going through adversity, without being told you're not enough, without being told you need to work harder, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I remember DeMario Gray right now, right hand. He told me, I gave him an idea. It was a multi-million-dollar idea with Rod Wave. He ended up doing it later on. But he was like, I just don't trust you. And I was like, dang, bro, this is the idea. This is the connect. This is how you do it. He's like, I don't trust you. I said, so when I do it, I'm going to tax you for it. He said, I'm cool with that. And it just changed my perspective on collaboration. It's like, sometimes you got to prove yourself. I'm a 4-time felon. You think I ain't been proving myself since I've been home? I don't even belong in the Kansas City Public School District, but I'm there. Why? Because I fought for it. And we got to get to that place where the journey and the anger and the heartache and the pain that we have to go through to get to where we're going is what's refining us to be the best CEO, executive, director, or whatever. So change your perspective.
All right, this first a little hand claps. All right, so this is the final question that I feel like I think Kevin and I were going to start saying at the end of this panel every time. But, one, we talked about how our community can really help, right? But what does help look like for those who are outside that community that might work for corporations that we might feel like are trying to take from us, but actually have an authentic want to support what we're doing? What does that help look like?
Before they answer that, can you define community?
The Black community, like the community that we've been talking about throughout this talk. Our community, when it comes to just the Black community specifically.
So you all are nonprofits.
Yes.
You all serve the Black community.
Yes.
Generally providing resources or access that they don't normally have. So why are we asking the people we serve then to help when they lack the resources to begin with? Are we asking the right question?
My question wasn't to ask how do we ask them for help. My question is how do they help us?
Well, your previous question, all right? Like, I love iRobot. I like movies. So you said, what do we say to the person that has been attempting to do this work, but the community is not supporting them? So in my mind, I'm not hearing the right question, right? Or wrong? I mean, y'all tell me, but I'm not hearing the right question.
I think I'm still trying to understand what question you're asking. So you're asking about the previous question.
Yeah, like William serves children,
Correct.
youth, teens, young adults, in an effort to prepare them to participate in greater economic prosperity.
Yes.
I.e. lifting them up out of poverty.
Correct.
I don't know you, but I looked you up a little bit. So you're attempting to address crime and violence in our community, which plagues the very people you're attempting to serve. Urban League's mission has been to address poverty through political action, job preparation, and things of that civic growth, right? So the community that you all serve, they have historically, systemically, and institutionally lacked or been divested of resources. That's why you exist. So help me understand why I would ever be asking that community necessarily to help my organization. They're not the grass tops. The grass tops need to be investing.
What you're saying is 100% correct, right? So basically, I'm gonna spin this. Why are we asking the people that we serve, right, for the support to serve themselves, right? 110%. But the duality is at the same time. Yeah, there you go. Come on, let's go. So the duality is in we're doing the same thing. We're doing two different things at the same time. We're walking into a bubble gum, right? To be able to get we're going to take these grant dollars from up here, right? We're going to put it into our community to self-sustain so we can turn the wheel so they can start taking care of themselves, because the issue is, as long as we keep relying on the people at the top to make decisions for us, decisions, i.e. give us money, right? Because whenever the grant dollars come from the federal government or come from that high up, those grant dollars come with restrictions. So what we need, the funding cycle that I run, you know what I mean? And I kind of see this sometimes with, what's the name? And shout out, I seen that look when you did that too. What we're trying to do is we're trying to take those dollars, right? Reinvest those dollars. And I see this brother doing the same thing, that they can then self-sustain themselves, that we can then pull that money from us to give back to us. Similar to the alumni kind of field though, right? We send people through a fraternity or whatever, and then they become the alumni, they become successful, and then they give the money back to go help the other people that are coming out of the situation. So not at any point or am I saying that we should solely focus on the community to help sustain itself, right? But the problem that we do have in the non-for-profit world is this though: where does the real money come from? And I'm not talking about real money in the sense of $100,000 come from one person. We can't get our own people to give us $5 for a fundraiser. You know what I'm saying? Prime example. So we down here on 18th and Vine, I'll throw a fundraiser, right? I'll put a headline artist down here. Do you know that I'm telling you, I probably had 300 people show up, right? Tierra turns around and throws the exact same party without the fundraiser component on it and have over 1,000 people show up. So we in ourselves don't self-sustain or don't want to give to ourselves. That's a problem. We got to address that. And we can look at Black, so Gift, right? Gift runs the $5 a month, 10,000 people, right? Right? Predominantly, the funders of that organization are white people.
White people.
And the issues that they're having when it comes to getting funding from our people is we do not give money to our own non-for-profits. Problem number one. Problem number two, when George Floyd, hold on, real quick. When George Floyd got, all the situation happened, we were down there on the plaza, predominantly, there were more white people out there that were advocating than there were Black people, right? So the issue that's at hand is, how do we change the mindset of the people that are down here? But that's not gonna happen without those large conglomerate dollars. You know what I'm saying? They have to go into the hands of the people that are good stewards of that money to empower the people that are in the community to understand their wealth, right? Understand the value of the dollar that they have. Because keeping it real, let's BG, we're talking about gentrification, but the truth divide has been the truth divide. And we've been having plenty of opportunities to go down there and buy that land up, right? But we chose not to do it. But now that the city is giving out these RFPs to go do it, now all of a sudden we throwing this hot water at the government because now it's unfair, though, right? But so the problem that I'm having is this though, because I get to say this because I am Black. I get to say this because I did grow up in the 50s in the 64130 area code where it was the murder factory. I'm from this. So if a white person stood up here and said this, I would be completely offended. But I'm from it, right? So I can say there's a freaking problem, right, with the way that we look at supports that come from the outside entities and how we manage our money to self-sustain and build ourselves. We talk about by any means necessary, but we ain't building no hospitals by any means necessary. We ain't building more jobs by any means necessary, right? So that's the issue that I have when it comes to, because now people are considering me and my organization to say y'all whitewash because all y'all money come from these white organizations. Give me some money and I'll make it black organization led, you know what I mean? But that's just not what is happening by statistical fact. And that's the issue that I have.
Yeah, but most there's no that's a true statement, but where those dollars lie at are mostly through the conglomerate organizations that have to trickle it back down to the nonprofits. I could tell you, like, and really if you want to talk about philanthropic, a lot of that is our tithes given to churches. And so are those churches really supporting the community like they should be when we have these organizations that are struggling like the ones that are on this? So like, yes, we are, but, and especially in Kansas City with having one of the highest rate of philanthropic roster in our city, those dollars are not being trickled down to a BXKC. I still have to go to these larger conglomerates. There's the Black Community Fund. The Black Community Fund did a whole entire gala where all you had to do was scan the QR code on your table, and they barely got the money they thought they would raise from pretty much the cream and the crop of the Black community that was in that space.
They invited them, and they didn't open it up publicly to everyone.
Yeah.
So like we got
the gala was free. The gala was open to everyone. The workshop was an invite only, but the gala was open to everyone, and that was, I mean, all you had to do was pay a ticket to be able to be there.
And the ticket itself was charity, pretty cheap. Charity, because it went to the actual Black Community Fund. True.
I don't want to make this an argument, and I no. Okay, but I think the one thing too about that question, that previous question was geared towards, we as a community, we see our need, and there are plenty of times where somebody has tried to start a business, an organization that has looked to the community to really be successful, but they get burnt out and they get tired and they try. I've been in that space where I'm sorry.
No, I just want to say, so the Digital KC Now initiative that we have, right, this broadband piece in a knowledge and information-based economy in the 3rd district. The 3rd district has a service economy. It has an entertainment economy. Neither of those are high-wage economies. We're trying to create, we are creating a digital economy, and we're creating it with the middle school and high schoolers. They get it. They're sponges, right? They just did a presentation last week, engineers, and one of them asked, do you know this is a room full of 250 engineering firms. Do you know what a net zero building is? 2 hands went up in the room, and then they went on ahead and explained it. So we see the community, but do we understand the community? That's our whole thing. If we can teach these young people to look at the data in your community, understand that data, now you control the narrative. And you know, if you control the narrative, then you can tell your story, as opposed to somebody coming in and telling you their story, or somebody coming in and saying, we got this great idea that we want to do. A good nonprofit is supposed to be working themselves out of business, right? They're supposed to be working themselves out of business. The problem is that we have a lot of nonprofits that stay in business on the back of the problems that they want to solve. So they don't lift, they just they enable. They enable and sustain. And so until we understand that the DEI, you don't need a DEI statement or policy if you've created your own inclusion, if you've created your own table. So our focus is really not about what other people have done or what other people should do. Our focus is on what we can do and what we will do. And that's a different mindset. And do we reach everybody? No. Will we eventually reach everybody? Yeah, because when they see 5 people taking control of their destiny, that becomes 10. And then 10 becomes 20. And it's not you can't change the Titanic. You can't turn the Titanic on a dime. So it's going to take patience. It's going to take diligence. And, it's going to be times where I sit in a room and I don't know if you're too young to remember Columbo, but your uncle who used to hang out with my dad does, I like to play dumb and just listen more than I speak. Because one thing, the narrative on me when I said we were isolated, William Wells doesn't play well in the sandbox, and he's hard to get along with. That ain't true. I had 50 people in town last week from each coast to each coast that have been with me. 4 of the co-founders of the National Society of Black Engineers, which is 50,000 strong. And they hadn't been together in 19 years. And the CEO, Janine Uzel, who lived in Ghana, who made her name and was the chief operations officer for Wikimedia, called me, "How did you get them in there?" I just asked. A brigadier general. Just ask. So if you're authentic in what you do and we're not complaining and we just saying this is what we're going to do and we trying to serve the common good, all that other stuff is noise, because that money will dry up.
But I think the whole point of me driving collaboration and the whole point of me trying to encourage other leaders who are in the same spaces that we're in, who might be tired, is that it all should not be on one organization's back to be able to solve these issues. And honestly, I feel like that there is enough space for everyone to be able to have their pocket of people, but we all are going towards the same goal. And so how can we encourage one another within our Black community, philanthropic community, to, 1, be collaborative, 2, come together so that we do create our own ecosystem of resources and supports, but then, and also come together to reach the ultimate goal, which is, to me, is closing the economic wealth gap, which is a huge thing that we all have to do collaboratively, which is putting ourselves on a larger table to where we're not asking to be seen, but we are seen because we are this force of making things happen for ourselves, by ourselves. Shout out to FUBU. And so, like, that's my point of asking these questions, because I feel like those are the things that hinder us the most, is that at times we are siloed when we're screaming for collaboration. And so to get over to those points, I'm asking, what does collaboration look like? I'm asking, how can we encourage the next person? I'm asking, how can we also accept help for those who don't look like us? Because it's going to take a whole lot more than what we're doing right now on this stage. When you're talking about workforce development, when we're talking about, we are asking ourselves, and this is why I'm saying we need to also look to help outside of us, is because if we are already suppressed, if we are already living in this system that does not allow us to have certain things, how do we expect to truly break the system without using or understanding the system that we're in right now? And I'm hoping I'm making sense. And so it's like there has to be an understanding of, one, we are self-aware of who we are. We're self-aware of what our power can be, but we also have to understand that it's not just going to happen with just us, because these are centuries, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years that have been put against us. And honestly, the last 10 years has probably been the most powerful we've honestly been in a long time. And I might be wrong.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that, but I will say this to answer your question. It takes being humble. It takes being selfless. It takes being authentic. And then it takes being a verb. Actions makes change, not dialogue and conversations. Actions make change. And the way you walk, the way you carry yourself, the authenticity is what's going to be the determining factor of who comes in your orbit. I'm going to go to that, right? You can come in my orbit, but you might not necessarily get the rights to land on my planet. And we have to understand that. You need people in your orbit, true. But just because they're in your orbit and they may have resources that can help you, that doesn't give them the right to land on your planet.
I agree with that.
So I just want to touch on a couple things. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I've enjoyed sitting back just listening. One of the things is to go back to your question. I think we have to use discernment to figure out our authentic allies. So who is actually here to help us help our community? And are people trying to partner with us for themselves or for their corporations, sort of what Mr. Wells was speaking to earlier. Secondly, we have to, again, know our worth and then understand. Part of breaking down a system is understanding it. So making ourselves knowledgeable in those systems and being able to get in there and place ourselves in positions where we can start change. Big change happens from little changes. So we have to, again, be patient and work on those small things. And collaborations, as far as getting things from our own community, I think people are philanthropic, to Katina's point, but they give to what they know, and they don't know us.
All right, so I'm sorry. It's go.
So I just want to be clear. Like,
Yes.
Mr. Wells said some really pivotal things when he talks about the humility, the authenticity. You know what I mean? But the thing that I'm doing when I go into school is I have to teach what humility is. You see, like, we assume that they know what humility is. They do. On my mama, they don't know, right? So I literally have to go in. Maybe in, like, when we say respect, see, we all can carry the same. So this is basic cognitive design, right? We all carry the same a majority of the same values, but our beliefs about those values are different based on the trauma, the family, social media that we experience, right? So I can say respect, but everybody in here has a different understanding of what that word respect is. So while I'm saying we should respect each other, everybody in here is not hearing that. You know what I'm saying? So when we come to this place to say we could be this ecosystem, you know what I'm saying, of change, we can do that. I agree 110%. We can be that. But there has to be a fundamental restructuring, though. You know what I mean? In our place, because let's be very, very clear, we are the only civilization that has been deconstructed, right? Fully and completely deconstructed and reconstructed after the Bronze Era. That is a real thing. You know what I'm saying? So when we look at the crime and the violence rate, if we were to say deconstruction, if we were to take our civilization back to prehistoric time, what was happening? Violence, no collaboration, right? Every man for themselves, all of that. What do you think the civilization that's been recreated after the Bronze Era is going to do? So we're reconstructing what our values are without nobody saying collectively, like, this is ours. As a Black community, this is our values. No, everybody has their own value system. Their own belief system about the values. So when I come to a person and say, yo, let's collaborate, in their mind, they honestly believe they're collaborating. They believe it with their soul because they took 10% of what you said and took it and ran with it. That's collaboration in them. When we know at a higher level, like, bro, you really need a strong 60 to go where you want to go. But that got to be taught. That literally has to be taught. Even in this conversation, like, I'm listening to him, I've said some things that he had to come back and say and check me on. So when I got his perspective, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see where you're going with that now. He just taught me. You know what I'm saying? And I built a $500,000 organization. You know what I'm saying? Off my principles and belief systems. One moment has changed that concept. So that's what I'm saying. Like the way the cognitive design works in our mindset is anything because we stay in survival mode, once we come up with a solution, we no longer revisit the solution because we got 20 other solutions to go after and go find, right? So because of that, we're not progressing when it comes to relationships because I got to figure out how to put food on the table. You see what I mean? So that's why I'm saying, like, yeah, I agree 100%. Like, let's collaborate, let's help each other, but we got to go to the root. We got to go to that place to say, yo, let's reconstruct the way that we think and let's get on a common ground with some of these core values and everything else. Basically, we asking for cheese on a cheeseburger, point blank. We asking for all these resources out here, but if we just change the thought process, all the resources would be applicable. But they not, because we don't see them as even valuable, because my core values tells me it takes respect to get respect. That ain't how mentorship works. You find your mentor to give you information. You know what I'm saying? Because you think in your value system that you have to, I know. Have you ever heard somebody ask you a question and when you answer and they be like, I know? Where's the mathematics in that? That turns a mentor off, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, there has to be actual restructuring of the social emotional understanding. So all of this other stuff these valuable gems that everybody is up here saying can actually take root in people that don't look like business owners. Because the goal is not to empower business owners. The goal is to empower people that want to be business owners or don't know that they should be business owners. We want to support the people that don't know that they need help. And we always look over those people because they too hard to deal with. But that's where the cure to cancer is. That's literally where the cure to cancer is. They just don't know. I got a little boy that can out-talk everybody in the school. He literally pimps the whole school. Does not know how to read. He is the best business owner in the whole school. I've watched him. He literally will buy candy for $2 and resell it for $5 to somebody in the same room. I've seen him do it. But he will never have an opportunity because he is constantly overlooked because he does not have the norm construct to fit in society. No, he has the cure to cancer. But he'll never be able to have that opportunity because we always look him over. Because we spend so much time on the people that we think need the business opportunity, but they already business owners.
Man, so I guess we're gonna have to do a part 2. Just because it's getting late and my kids are in the back of my office probably falling asleep soon. But this is really good, fruit for the soul, and I really appreciate you all coming and being your authentic selves and being transparent. I thank you, Katina, for coming in as well, and even checking me on some of the things I said, and just appreciate this space. I appreciate everybody coming through for sessions and for Rebuild. Honestly, shameless plug, a lot of this stuff for BXKC. We are having the Millionaire Mindset Brunch coming up. Are we really crabs in the barrel? On November 5th with Dr. Rodney Smith, who will have that conversation. Yeah, man, I appreciate everybody coming through, and you all have a good one.